Okay, imagine this for a second. What if everything on the planet is already being tracked,
Ah,
including you, and you don't even know it? What if the reality we experience is, well, maybe more like the Matrix than we could ever imagine?
yeah, it's a pretty wild thought. And today we're really diving into some, let's say, extraordinary claims. Our main source here is an audio file. It's called You Might Already Be Microchipped Leak Docs Confirm Virtually Everything on planettracked.mp3. And along with that, we're looking at an alleged patent. The title is Nervous System Manipulation by Electromagnetic Fields from Monitors. The source claims this patent was actually sent to them by someone in the U.S. military.
Right. So with a setup like that, our mission today, our deep dive, isn't just about, repeating sensational claims. We want to really unpack what's in this audio, what's in this alleged patent, understand the technologies they're talking about, and think about the huge questions this stuff raises about privacy, reality, all of it. And just to be super clear up front, throughout this, we're reporting on what the source material claims. We're conveying the ideas from the source. We aren't endorsing these viewpoints, just exploring what's presented. We use phrases like, according to the source, the document claims, to keep that distinction clear. Okay, so the bedrock of these claims seems to be this idea the source calls a central nervous system for Earth. It apparently involves a project linked to Hewlett-Packard called the Trillion Sensor Vision.
That's exactly it. The source paints this picture of, yeah, a literal central nervous system for the Earth.
Mm.
And this trillion sensor vision, according to the document, it supposedly got going around 2008. The initial goal, they claim, was a trillion sensors, which is already wow. But then the source claims that by 2017, there were already something like 100 billion sensors in play.
Mm.
And the ultimate goal, the source says it's aiming for 100 trillion microscopic tracking chips.
100 trillion. I mean, that number is just, it's hard to even process. So when the source says everything under the sun or everything on the planet, what specifically are they talking about? What does the system allegedly track?
Well, according to the source, the list is pretty exhaustive. We're talking wildlife, for starters. Then all kinds of vessels, air, land, water. So cars, boats, jet skis, planes, everything moving. Plus real-time traffic info, even predictions about traffic. But it goes way beyond that. Agriculture, plants, minerals, big structures like bridges, buildings, oil and gas deposits, water, other liquids, government activities, home and business automation, security systems, even merchandise in stores.
Okay, so a massive amount of data on, well, everything.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker, right? The source says, sometimes subtly, sometimes less so, that this definitely includes tracking people. It's not just about logistics or business efficiency, is it?
No, that's the core implication the source puts forward. It claims this whole trillion sensor vision isn't just about knowing where things are. It's about compiling algorithms, huge amounts of information to assess what the source calls a threat matrix.
Yeah.
A threat against what it terms hegemony, basically, the existing power structure, the control grid. So yeah, the source frames the tracking of people as central to its purpose.
A threat matrix against hegemony. That really reframes the whole thing. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Let's talk about the actual tech, these alleged chips. How tiny are we talking? And how could they possibly be deployed so widely without anyone noticing?
Right. The source gets pretty specific here, and it's quite something. These chips are described as so small you literally need a microscope to see them, unless, the speaker jokes, you have superhuman vision. To put it in perspective, they're said to be literally about the thickness of a human hair. And there's an evolution described. Back in 2013, the term was smart dust, apparently 0.4 millimeters. But now the source talks about powder type tags, or smart powder, not dust, powder which are claimed to be 60 times smaller than those 0.4 millimeter chips. The source even jokingly calls those older ones moo chips by comparison.
Smart powder. So like nanotechnology that fine.
Exactly, like a fine powder, making it even harder to detect. The document also mentions a specific chip, the U chip. It apparently operates at 2.45 gigahertz, which, is interesting because that's the frequency used by Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, common stuff. It implies easy communication. And kind of as an aside, the source presents Wi-Fi itself as ancient technology that already can track people and movement, like how many people are in a room, what's generally in there.
Okay, tiny chips, common frequencies, but still 100 billion, let alone 100 trillion. How could they possibly be spread everywhere?
Yeah, that's the big question. The source suggests it's not primarily through, like, needles and injections, although it does mention rice grain-sized chicks can be injected, and apparently some people even brag about having them.
Okay, so not mainly injections. Then how?
Well, the source claims they can be easily put into water supplies. That's one alleged method. Also dispersed through chemical trails, or as the source calls them, stratospheric aerosol injections. Chemtrails, basically.
Right, the chemtrail theory connection.
Yep. Another claim is hiding them in fuel sources, like disguised as an extra octane booster or maybe some carburetor cleaning nanotechnology for better gas mileage.
Wow, okay. Sneak.
And then there's food. Fruit drinks, lots of consumer products. The source claims they're often unlabeled because the minute size of the nanotechnology lets them bypass labeling rules. It even touches on vaccines, speculating about their presence there, mentions a specific big tip syringe used for a swine flu vaccine, and talks generally about using different animal DNA in viruses and vaccines.
That's a lot of potential vectors.
Yeah.
And the source speaker apparently saw something firsthand.
Yeah, there's this personal story in the audio from 2013 in Colorado Springs. He claims he actually saw nanoparticulates falling from the sky. Said they were visible if you wore polarized sunglasses. And his description is, well, vivid. He likens it to a giant salt and pepper shaker, or, and this is a direct quote the source uses, nanohumanism diarrhea squirts raining down.
Okay. That's quite the image.
It definitely is. And he says this experience made him question everything, like, does real weather even exist anymore? Are clouds even real?
So he's connecting these alleged falling particles directly to this whole tracking system.
Yes, and linking it back to the body. The concern raised is that these particles could get into you through your pores, maybe reach the brain, the nervous system. The document warns about potential long-term effects from mixtures of microscopic plastic particulate and titanium alloy, plastic, copper, magnesium sulfate, effects on the nervous system. It even mentions something called edible microchips, referencing a Kodak patent that supposedly let you listen to TV without a remote.
Edible microchips.
Mm.
Okay. This is leading us into some really, really interesting territory now. The source talks about mind control patents. This feels like a major escalation. What's the claim here?
It definitely is a shift. The source puts a lot of emphasis on this patent, nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields from monitors. So the patent itself apparently describes observing physiological effects in people when their skin is stimulated by weak electromagnetic fields. Specifically, fields pulsed at certain low frequencies, 0.5 hertz up to 2.4 hertz.
Those frequencies are significant.
Very much so, according to the source, because they overlap with human brainwave frequencies. The patent then explains that things like computer monitors, old CRT TV tubes, when they display pulsed images, can actually emit electromagnetic fields strong enough sufficient amplitude to cause this kind of stimulation, this sensory resonance.
Stimulation from a TV screen or a monitor.
That's what the patent claims, yes. And here's the crucial line from the patent, as presented by the source. It is therefore possible to manipulate the nervous system of a subject by pulsing images displayed on a nearby computer monitor or TV set. And it adds that this image pulsing may be embedded in the program material. You wouldn't necessarily see it consciously.
Embedded in the TV show or the website you're looking at.
Potentially, yes. The source connects this to the rise of high-definition TVs around the year 2000. It claims HD could carry times the amount of information in the same amount of band space, making it easier perhaps to embed these signals.
Okay, so if this tech, as described in the patent and interpreted by the source, is real and being used, what does that mean for people day to day? What are the alleged consequences?
Well, the implications laid out by the source are, frankly, disturbing. It claims the system could be used to manipulate people, manipulate their mental state, and this alleged manipulation could be targeted, for instance, to lower someone's threat matrix score if they're seen as a problem for this hegemony. And lowering the threat matrix, according to the source, could mean inducing severe outcomes. It mentions things like a heart attack or causing a car accident, like the brakes go out. It even explicitly gives the example of making someone seem to commit suicide, like shooting himself in the back of the head with a shotgun. Extremely dark stuff alleged here.
That's incredibly grim. And it's not just about screens.
No, the source expands on this. It claims even pilots could be vulnerable if they have these supposed nano devices inside them. Specific frequencies could cause them to lose control, lose vision, and it brings in cell phone towers, radio towers, claims they're strategically placed everywhere to keep track of people's mental states. They allegedly emit information at 2.45 gigahertz, that same frequency again, which the source claims directly affects human consciousness and the nervous system.
So towers are part of this manipulation network, too.
According to the source, yes. It even describes hidden cell towers, disguised as trees or cacti.
Yeah, I've heard about those.
Right. The source claims some of these are blasting directly into their cerebral cortex with 5G technology. That's a specific claim made. And finally, it mentions cymatics. The idea of manipulating matter with sound, like making sand-form patterns on a plate.
Yeah, I've seen videos of that.
The source suggests that kind of technology, manipulation through vibration and sound, is also part of this control system, and it's under complete control lockdown.
Wow, okay. So tracking physical manipulation via particles, nervous system manipulation via EM fields and frequencies. It paints a picture of total control. The source keeps mentioning a new world order or this sense of manipulation. How does it actually characterize this whole system? What's the big picture according to the source?
The narrative woven through the source material is one of pervasive and sort of insidious control. A key point it makes is that permission for all this tracking isn't considered necessary. It's framed, allegedly, as being for business purposes, or maybe just to help people feel connected. Plausible deniability, perhaps.
So hidden in plain sight, almost.
That's the implication. The source uses some really stark language to describe the system. It calls it a virtual harvesting farm where we suck your soul out slowly and use you as an energy source. It even suggests they might be recycling your soul after death. Very Matrix-like themes again.
Definitely. That's intense.
Yeah, and it directly addresses the listener sometimes, saying things like, "You're probably already inside a computer. The Matrix is real." Or even calling listeners a good little slave. It's deliberately provocative, trying to shock people into questioning things.
It sounds like it.
So,
Does it offer any context for why this is happening?
it critiques big institutions, pharmaceutical companies, for example,
Oh.
claims they were pitching how good the drugs were while actually poisoning them with poisonous drugs. Part of a larger deception, it seems. And interestingly, the source speaker shares a bit about their own journey, talks about being dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, but then claims they found validation by participating in some kind of think tank described as a network involving professors, doctors, scientists answering multi-choice questions. And in this think tank, they apparently consistently ranked in the top 5, sometimes even first at predicting future events. So they felt vindicated.
Okay. So a sense of personal confirmation there.
Yes. And the underlying message is that powerful forces have been manipulating you for eons. Through food, drinks, medicine, vaccines. It's presented as a long-term agenda.
So is there any hope offered? Any way out, according to the source?
Well, towards the end, the speaker does mention a personal project, a concrete studio in South Dakota. It's presented as part of a potential micro-community, a new renaissance. They call it a 100-human opportunity, and also refer to it as a bunker. So yeah, it seems to suggest withdrawing, building small, resilient communities as a way to potentially escape or resist this perceived control grid.
Okay, so we've covered a huge amount of ground here in this deep dive. It's really unpacked some vast and, frankly, quite startling claims. We went from this idea of a trillion sensor vision, a central nervous system for the Earth, possibly involving microscopic chips inside us in our water falling from the sky, all the way to alleged manipulation of our nervous systems through everyday screens, TVs, maybe even cell towers, and this overarching narrative of a hidden control grid.
It really does leave you thinking, doesn't it? And it raises a fundamental question, based entirely on the source's perspective, of course. If, and it's a big if based on these claims, if our reality is subject to this kind of pervasive, unseen tracking and potential manipulation, then what does it actually mean to be free? How would you even begin to tell the difference between your own thoughts, your own choices, and things potentially influenced by, external frequencies or hidden tech you can't even see?
That's definitely a provocative thought to leave people with.
Yeah.
It is a lot to mull over. And really, that's the point of digging into sources like this, not necessarily to accept them wholesale, but to engage with the ideas. Think critically. So maybe the best way to wrap up is with the source's own closing words, which seem fitting. Question everything. Be excellent to each other, and be the change you want to see.